Ho, ho, ho! This year, I'm going keto! I'm gonna have the merriest Christmas ever! Oh, oh, what's happening? What's happening? Oh, what happened? Where am I? So with keto, I've lost 75 pounds, reversed all my health conditions, turned my white beard back to brown. It's incredible! And I've done it all eating foods just like this. Foods that I love. And you can too. I'm gonna show you a complete Christmas feast. But let's keep it low carb, let's keep it keto, and let's keep it delicious. Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining me for this 13-course Christmas feast. The first thing we need to think about is what meat to have. And I can't think of anything much better than a honey-baked, or as I like to call it, a heavenly ham. There are very few meats more traditional for a holiday meal or a family gathering than a nice juicy ham. And one of the nationwide favorites is heavenly ham. Heavenly hams are delicious, juicy, super sweet. I'm going to show you how to make my easy version without all the sugar. It's super simple to put together. It's going to be juicy, it's going to be sweet, and it's going to be guilt-free because you're not going to have all the sugar on there, but you're still going to have a delicious crust. And oh, by the way, it's going to save you a few bucks too. I'll show you what you need right after this. We have a get-together every year with some friends of ours. And one thing they always have to have is the heavenly ham. No other ham will work. But this year, I figured out how to make the heavenly ham and nobody can tell the difference. It's really easy to do. You can use an already spiral cut ham if you want. So I like to use one that's not cut. I'll cut it myself. I'll show you how to do that because it's not as hard as you think. And then I'll show you how I put it together and make a heavenly ham right in my kitchen. Stick around. Here are the ingredients you're going to need to put together this ham. So you're going to need half of a ham. I use the butt portion. Now I'm going to show you how I slice it, but you can get a spiral cut ham as well. Just get a half. It needs to be somewhere between 7 and 8 pounds. You're going to need some good butter. You're going to need some of this keto honey and my favorite Magic Baker's blend. And here's our spice lineup. You're going to need some seasoning salt, onion powder, ground cinnamon, some nutmeg, some ginger, ground clove, smoked paprika, and allspice. Now if you don't have these, you could use something like a pumpkin pie spice or an apple pie spice that already has a lot of these in there. I just like to be able to control the amount that I'm putting in of each one just so I can get that heavenly ham flavor. So I'm going to measure all these out and I'm going to show you how to put this together. All right, I've got my ham laid out on the board here. There's a bone that runs from here all the way to here, if you can see that. So we're going to kind of use that to our advantage. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take my electric knife and I'll put a link to one of these down below. If you don't have one, it makes cutting meat really simple. I'm just going to run through it. Just a few slits down through here like that. But this is going to allow all of the seasoning and everything to get down inside this ham when I start the process of cooking it. You can go a little deeper if you want. I've cut it about, I'd say about halfway. You could go a little further. The more further you go, the more you risk cutting big pieces off. With this big nice fat cap on there. So this is all I'm going to do is just cut this into pieces like this, about halfway through, just to allow all that seasoning to get in there. And if you like the spiral slice, go ahead and get that. It's a lot easier to cut at the end, but you know, I like to have some adventures in the kitchen, so there you go. If you're liking this easy copycat recipe and you're not subscribed, subscribe right down there. Hit the little bell beside it, and then anytime I upload a video,
you'll know about it.
I've put my ham inside this crock pot. That's gonna be our first step. This crock pot is the perfect size for this ham. It's got a little room left over. The thing I like the best about it is that if you have a family gathering or something, you just put the top on. You can clip these down like that and just take the whole crock pot right with you. And I'll leave a link for that down below if you don't have a crock pot or if you're looking for one. And what I have in here is the keto honey and butter. What I'm gonna do is just paint this all over this ham. Let it get down in those cracks that we cut in there. And I'll probably open it up again and baste it in a little while. Those are the only two things you want to put on it to begin with. We'll just get it real nice and coated like that. Turn it up on the side, just so it gets all the way around it. We'll coat every side of this. One happy ham right here, I can tell you that. You're going to be real happy when you make this and eat it. So it's a win-win. Now I have that done, I'm just going to put it back down in the crock pot. I'm going to put the lid on. We're going to cook this on low for 4 to 5 hours, depending on how big yours is. Mine's a little on the smaller side. It's about 7 pounds, so I'm going 4 hours. If you got an 8 pound, you're probably going to want to do 5. We'll just let this sit in here, marinate for a little bit, get real happy, and we'll put together the spice mix we're going to rub it down with just a little bit later. It's been 4 hours in here, and this ham is done with its first part. I've transferred that over onto the foil-lined roasting pan. I'm going to go ahead and go in here. I'm going to go ahead and go in here and grab 4 or 5 tablespoons of this liquid to make our glaze. I've mixed up this sweetener and spice blend. I'm going to pour half of this right in here with those juices that I took right out of the crock pot. And the rest are going right over the top of this ham. I'm just going to press that in. I'll take what's down here and just kind of work it all into this ham. Then we're going to take this and reduce it down to make another glaze. And I'll show you what to do next. Can you see the bottom of this ham? How delicious that looks. I'm just going right over the top like that, getting as much in as I can. And then there's some on the bottom, which is where that's going to sit right back down. I've moved my oven rack all the way to the middle, and I'm going to preheat this to a high broil. Once it gets there, we're going to throw the ham in there until it gets nice and bubbly, and I'm going to start working on this sauce. Now my oven is preheated on broil, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it in the oven, and I'm going to wait and watch this top until it gets pretty bubbly, starts caramelizing a little bit, and then we're going to take it out so we can apply our glaze. The other thing I like to do with this is just kind of bring these edges of this foil up pretty close so that all that sweetener that fell off is able to kind of come in contact with the bottom of that. Just makes like a nice cozy little pouch for this thing. So let's go ahead and get it in the oven. So I don't know if you can hear that or not, but after just about a minute or two, it's going to get pretty nice and golden like that. We're just going to let that sit while I start this glaze. And the glaze is super simple. I've got those pan juices, and I've got the rest of that sweetener blend. So I'm going to bring this to a boil. I'm going to let it boil for about a minute. Then I'm just going to take it over to the ham and brush it over the top. So just watch this really carefully. You don't want this to burn, but you do want it to boil for a minute or so just to kind of reduce it down. And just keep kind of stirring it like that, just so it doesn't stick and it doesn't burn. We're going to reduce it down for a minute, and then we're going to paint our ham with this. Now we have our glaze. I'm just going to paint it right over the top of this. So I've got this glazed all the way around. We're going to put it back on broil for just a couple minutes. Make sure you keep an eye on it. You do not want it to burn, but you do want a nice glaze all over this ham. And that is what it's going to look like when it's finished. That is a beautiful ham. I'm just going to take this foil wrap it up. We're going to let it rest for about 10 minutes before we serve it. So I transferred this ham over to my cutting board. But make sure that you hang on to this juice because you're going to want to spoon that over your ham. So let me just cut off a little hunk of this just so I can try it out. And, you know, make sure it's okay. That is delicious. Some heavenly, heavenly ham. I hope you'll want to put this on your table, feed your family. You're going to absolutely love it. It is delicious. And as you can tell, it's pretty easy. Now, if you don't like ham and you prefer something nice and smoky, even if you don't have a smoker, this recipe will be perfect for you. I do it in a smoker because I love the smoky taste. But you can also do this in the oven. It'll come out great. Let's do a smoked turkey breast. My electric smoker is my favorite way to make a turkey. And I'm going to show you what you need for your smoker, electric smoker, or oven to make sure your turkey comes out perfectly every time. Even if you don't have an electric smoker, this recipe will work fine, but there is nothing like a smoked turkey. It's got all the flavor, and it brings flavor to the other dishes you're having alongside it. But if you don't have a smoker yet, you can still use my spice blend and my technique to make sure that you have a perfect turkey breast for your Thanksgiving, smaller gathering, or just as a side to a whole 30-pound turkey. Let me show you the first steps on how to make this turkey the most delicious thing you've ever eaten. What we're going to do to get this ready, I'm just going to rub it down with a little bit of olive oil. And then I'm going to put my spice mix on it. I'll put a link down below to the spice mix. Just make sure you get the oil all in there. When we put it in the smoker, we're going to put it in like this so it kind of stays together like that. And I'm going to take my spice mix. Just put that all over the top like that. Get nice and seasoned. And like I said, if you watch my KFC chicken video, you know about this spice blend. It's great with everything. But I'm going to put the link to that in the description so that you can make this. We'll go ahead and take this right out to the smoker. So for this turkey, I've got my smoker preheated to 250 degrees. Now this is a Masterbuilt electric smoker. I love it. The only bad thing is the panel here doesn't work. It's preheating now to 250. And as soon as it gets there, we're going to put this turkey breast in. So this is the Expert Grill thermometer. So I'm going to put this probe in right into the middle of the meat. And you can see it's like 52 degrees now. I'm going to open the smoker up, put it in, and I'm going to leave the thermometer outside and just put the meat inside. It's nice and smoky in there. I'm going to close it up just like that. I'll set this on top, and what we're looking for is a temperature of 165 internal. So what we want to do once this gets to about 100 degrees internal is put my little bacon quilt over the top. Hey, if you like turkey and you want to try this recipe, like this video down here and make sure you subscribe to my channel. So what I've done here is just woven 6 pieces of bacon together to form this little quilt. I'm just going to put it over the top of this turkey breast and let it finish smoking. So I'll just put that bacon right on top like that. We're going to let it finish smoking just like that. So it's at 106 right now. We're going to let it get to 160 because it's going to continue to cook just a little bit, and we want the internal temperature to be 165 when we serve it. So we'll let it get to 160 and we'll pull it out. All right, so we're at 160 degrees internal temperature. So I'm going to take this out. Put it right there with this little bacon blanket. And we will take it in. We're going to let it rest for about 10 minutes before we serve it. So I'm going to slice this turkey with this little blanket of bacon. Oh man, look at that. Look at that. I've got to throw that little bacon on there. Let me slice another piece. That's perfect. It's gonna have a great smoked flavor. Now while that meat's cooking, you might need an appetizer. This is a traditional Southern appetizer. It's been around for a long, long time. We just made it low carb. So get your appetite together and let's make some sausage balls. Sausage balls are one of those iconic dishes that always pop up around the holidays. Everywhere you go, just turn around and poof, there they are. They're loaded with some delicious pork and cheese. The problem with the traditional version is that they're also loaded with carbs. But my version is not. You can eat these guilt-free, and the best thing is if you bring them to a holiday gathering or a family event, nobody's gonna know they're keto. Let me show you how to make these right after this. These sausage balls have been around as long as I can remember. Pretty sure it's a Southern thing because most of the great recipes are, but that's just my guess. I do know we used a lot of Bisquick down here in the South. And so the way I like to make these is with almond flour and some baking powder instead of the Bisquick. And like I said, the best thing about these is you can make these, take them to any event, and nobody's gonna know they're keto except for you. These are a huge hit and something you can bring to a party or a gathering or a holiday meal, and people are gonna ask you for the recipe. They're really, really easy to make. They don't have a whole lot of ingredients, and they only take about 20 minutes to bake. So if you're looking for something last minute to take to a party, this is it. You're gonna love these. Let me get the ingredients together and let me show you what you're gonna need to make them. You're gonna need a pound of sausage. Now this is the Walmart brand. I was at Walmart looking for sausage and I looked at the Carolina Pride, I looked at Jimmy Dean. All of them had MSG in it, and I try to avoid MSG. This one's pretty clean. Pork, water, salt, spices, and sugar. But sugar is the last ingredient, so I don't really care that much about that. And you're either going to find sugar or dextrose in every single sausage that you find. If you look right there, there's not much in there. You're going to need some almond flour. You're going to need some baking powder. You're going to need some Parmesan cheese. You're going to need some sharp cheddar cheese. I like the extra sharp myself, but at least a sharp. You're going to need 1 egg. You're going to need 1 large egg. You're going to need some garlic powder, and you're going to need some onion powder. Super simple. I'm going to go ahead and measure out all these ingredients, grate my cheese, and then I'm going to show you how to put this together. And what I like to do now that I have all my ingredients measured out is go ahead and preheat the oven to 350 degrees. So I have all my ingredients measured out here. I'm just going to go ahead and start combining them all together. I'm going to start out with my pound of sausage. You can use any kind of sausage you like. I really like this brand a lot, but you can use a breakfast sausage. You can use Italian sausage. This is the traditional way to do it. Go ahead and add in my almond flour. And I've mixed my baking powder, my onion powder, and my garlic powder together. I'm just going to pour those in. And I'm going to take the egg and beat it, just so it incorporates into this mixture better. I'll go ahead and pour that in. I'm going to go ahead and add in my cheeses. And although I would love to find a better way to do this, there's no way to do it other than just get in here and mix all this together until it's really well combined. Hey, plus it's just fun to do. Now, if you like sausage balls or any other holiday sides, make sure you're subscribed to my channel and hit the little bell. Anytime I upload a video, you'll know about it. So now that that's all combined like that, what I have here is just a large baking sheet. I've lined it with some aluminum foil, and I've put a cooling rack on top. I'm just going to take one of these cookie scoopers and scoop out a good, solid, rounded portion like that. Put it right on here. Just kind of round it over the top like that. You can see that on the side. And just put it right on. If you see they're kind of coming apart like that, just press them together a little bit. They're going to be just fine. And what I like to do when I get them all rolled out like this is just kind of press them a little bit, just to get them together a little bit more. You don't have to do this, but I just find it makes a little bit better texture at the end. And there you have it. We're going to go ahead and put these in the oven on 350 degrees for 20 minutes. So one thing I forgot to mention, about halfway into the cooking process, I'm going to kind of roll these around like that just to keep them from sticking. But these are done. They're delicious. And I like to serve these with a little bit of the cranberry sauce. And I'll put a link to that video right up here. These are going to be delicious, and I hope you enjoy them. Man, what a great appetizer, and something you can feel good about making, knowing you're sparing yourself all the carbs, but you can still have a holiday favorite. We need to start thinking about some side dishes now. And one of my favorite side dishes is these carnivore mashed potatoes. And I want to show you how to make those right now. Hey, this is Victor with Your Best Body Blueprint, and today I'm going to make a dish that I absolutely love. A lot of keto dishes I have changed around because there's just things that I didn't like about it. This recipe is perfect. So we're going to make Chris Cooking Nashville's mashed potatoes right after this. When I first saw this recipe, I looked at the ingredients and I'm like, there is no way this is going to be good. Then I watched somebody else make it. I kept checking back and I see other people commenting like it's phenomenal. So I'm like, well, I love mashed potatoes, so it's worth a shot. And I am telling you, if you follow this recipe the way he has written it, they're phenomenal. My son could not tell the difference in these potatoes and regular mashed potatoes. So Thanksgiving is never going to be the same again. Now I'm not going to put the recipe in here. I'm going to leave a link to his video right down there so that you can watch it. Since it's not mine, I can't take credit for it. So you'll go on his video, get all the ingredients, but I'm going to show you how I cook it, and you just got to taste it for yourself. You will be blown away. So these are all the ingredients you're going to need for Chris Cooking Nashville's carnivore mashed potatoes. And again, I'll put the link below so that you can go and get the exact recipe and make it yourself. But what you're going to need is some Parmesan cheese. You're going to need mozzarella, and you're going to need the fresh mozzarella, not the kind that you cut off the block, because it needs to have a lot of moisture in it to make this recipe work. You're going to need some cream cheese. You're going to need butter. You're going to need egg whites. You're going to need beef gelatin powder and toasted beef gelatin powder. You're going to need white pepper. You're going to need some salt and some garlic powder. You're going to need sour cream, and you're going to need egg white powder. Now I know these all seem like really weird ingredients, but trust me, once you try it, it tastes just like mashed potatoes, and you're going to love it. So for this recipe, I'm going to use my New Wave induction cooktop. I love to use this because I can control the heat really to the exact temperature that I want it to be. So I'm going to put this one between medium, low, and medium. You want to make sure and cook it on a low temperature either way so that the egg whites do not brown. You want them to stay white so that it keeps that mashed potato color. So we'll get all the egg whites in there, and then I'm going to start the seasoning. So I'm going to put in the garlic powder and the salt. And you just put that right in there while it's cooking. And we'll mix it around just a little, just to make sure it's fully incorporated in through there. Now, you can melt the butter before you start this process, but I found out that it works just fine by doing this, mixing it up. And just keep mixing it until that salt and the garlic is fully incorporated in there. And then once it started warming up just a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and add that butter in. And we're going to let that butter melt. So it'll take just a little bit of time because, of course, we're using a lower temperature. And I'm just going to break that butter up a little bit just to make it melt a little bit faster. You just don't want to leave it sitting for a long time. You're going to melt that butter, and what you're going to be left with is the butter solids and the cooked egg whites. So now we're just going to let that sit for a little bit to melt the butter. And as it goes down, I'm just going to use this spatula. And I do apologize for the blurriness of it. I've got to get a better camera, but right now I just kind of wanted to show you what it looks like. And I'm going to speed it up through this to show you what it looks like once it's cooked for a few minutes. So you can see those egg whites are starting to scramble up a little bit. So you just want to keep working with it like that. And just keep breaking them up and check out if you've got any liquid left in there like that. Then just break it up a little more and keep going until all that liquid is basically gone. So you can see right here, that's starting to look pretty good. You've still got a little bit of liquid left in there, but not much, but we're going to go just a little bit longer. And so now, when you turn it up like that, there's hardly any liquid left, and that's when you're done with this part. And this is what it looks like when you're finished. Now I've already added in all of the ingredients to the blender. Watch his video to show you how to do that. And you're going to want to open your blender every once in a while, scrape down the sides until you get that perfect texture. And at this point, you're going to want to taste them and see if you need to add any more salt. I like a little bit more salt in mine, so I added a little bit more. Now, one thing I do that Chris Cooking Nashville does not mention is I do like to put a little bit of black pepper in mine. So I'm going to transfer them to a bowl, add some black pepper, and a little bit more black pepper. And now they are perfect. So the hardest part of that whole recipe is just the time that it took the egg whites to cook. Other than that, it is a simple recipe. You just need to make that toasted gelatin ahead of time. And it is an essential ingredient in this recipe. But you serve this at Thanksgiving, nobody's gonna know that it's carnivore. It's perfect. So thank you to Chris Cooking Nashville for putting together this recipe. It is awesome. This will be a staple in our house from now on. And I don't know how you did it, what kind of wizardry or sorcery you used to come up with this recipe. With those ingredients tasting like real mashed potatoes, I mean, it's crazy. It blows my mind. Now with mashed potatoes, you need something to put on top of them. That's why I've got the Keto Brown Gravy. Let's check that out. Is there anything better than gravy to enhance a meal? But how can you have gravy and keep it low carb? I'm about to show you. There's not many things in this world better to put on turkey, dressing, carnivore mashed potatoes. I'm going to show you how simple and easy this recipe is. You're going to be blown away by the depth of flavor and the taste in this. So let me show you what kind of ingredients you need real quick, and let's put this together. You're going to need some butter. You're going to need some bone broth, and I make mine with this concentrate and water. You can get it in the carton as well, or if you make your own bone broth, use that. You're going to need some onion powder. You're going to need some garlic powder. You're going to need some smoked paprika. And if you don't like the smoky taste, just use regular paprika. It's fine. But this smoked paprika really adds a depth of flavor to this gravy that I really like. You're going to need some xanthan gum. You're going to need some salt, either this Redmond's real salt or some pink Himalayan salt. And you're going to need some black pepper. So I'm going to measure everything out, and I will show you how easy it is to make this keto gravy. Okay, I promised you an easy recipe, and this is it. You put the butter in the pot. You mix in all the seasonings and the xanthan gum, and then you're going to pour in your bone broth. Now all I'm going to do is put this on the stove top, and the xanthan gum may clump up a little bit, but as we whisk it, it's going to get really smooth. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit subscribe right down below. So really all I have to do with this is just whisk this together. We're going to melt this butter. Okay, so now we got a proper boil here. We'll go ahead and stir this up. If the xanthan gum kind of congeals up, it's okay. It's going to cook out. Once it gets to this stage, I'm going to let it cook for 1 more minute, and I'm going to take it off the heat, and it will be ready. And so now I'm just going to turn it off. I'm going to cover it until we're ready to eat it. All right, so let me get a little bite of this and see how it is. Let's try it out. Oh man, that is good. I'm telling y'all, this is the good stuff. Next up, you could do some keto biscuits, but I much prefer my keto cornbread. So let's get that started right now. Do you want to make a cornbread that is both delicious and low carb and keto friendly? I'm going to show you how. Now, I know what you're saying, Victor. There's no way you can make a cornbread that is both keto, low carb, and tastes like cornbread. I'm going to show you my secret ingredient that I use to make this taste just as delicious as the traditional cornbread. But let's get right into this. Let me show you the ingredients you need to put this together. We're going to need 5 eggs. We're going to need some sweetener of your choice. I like this Splenda Magic Baker Blend. You're going to need some almond flour. You're going to need some coconut flour. You're going to need some butter. You're going to need some baking powder. You're going to need some salt. And I like this Redmond's Real Salt or pink Himalayan salt. And here's the secret ingredient: cornbread extract. And then you're going to want an 8-inch cast iron skillet. I'll leave a link to one of my favorites below. So if you don't have one, you can get one. So if you're liking this video, hit the little like button right down there and make sure you hit subscribe so that anytime I upload a video like this, you're going to know about it. Let me show you how to put this together and we'll start cooking it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take some bacon grease and I'm going to coat the inside of this skillet. So now I'm going to preheat the oven to 350. I'm going to put this cast iron skillet in here. It's coated with the bacon grease. Let me combine all this and we will start cooking. So what I'm going to do now is whisk in all my wet ingredients. So I'm going to mix the eggs in. I'm going to mix in the melted butter. And I'm going to mix in the corn extract. So let's mix all this together really well and we'll be right back. Now I'm just going to whisk in all the dry ingredients, the sweetener, the baking powder, and the salt. Then we'll put in the almond flour and coconut flour. We're going to whisk this together until it all comes together to a dough. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Now this is pretty thick, so I'm just going to mix in about 2 tablespoons of water. Mix it up again until it comes to a proper consistency. And then just add some water until it's about this consistency. We're going to put it in the cast iron skillet, and I'll show you how it comes out. We'll just spread it out like this. Put it in the oven for 350 for 20 minutes, and we'll check it after that. So after 20 minutes, it still needs probably another 3 to 4 minutes. So after 5 more minutes, that's what it looks like. We're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes and cool, and then we will cut it. All right, so this is cooled for about 10 minutes. I'm going to just cut a little slice here. Put it on the plate. And tonight we're going to serve this with some pork chops, gravy, and some green beans. If you have non-keto people coming over, I invite you to try this out on them, and I bet you they won't be able to taste the difference. This keto cornbread is a delicious addition to any meal, and I also use it in another one of my favorite recipes that you need to check out. So you've got some cornbread, you got some gravy left over. What can we do with that? How about some stuffing topped with that brown gravy? Sounds like a great idea to me. That means you can have some turkey, but you can't have the dressing. Or can you? Stick around and find out. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a keto-friendly dressing that will go perfect with your Thanksgiving feast. I'm going to use my cornbread recipe. I'm going to use a few other ingredients that you probably already have around. And we're going to put this together, pair it with my gravy, and we'll have the perfect Thanksgiving side dish. I know y'all are ready to get cooking, so let's get in here and get cooking. Okay, so let me show you what we need to make this keto dressing. You're going to need some cornbread. I'm making half a batch of this today. I'm going to put the recipe for this half batch and the full batch down in the description for you. And I'll put the link to the cornbread recipe down below for you. You're going to need some butter. You're going to need your favorite keto bread. Now, it says right here, keto certified. There's really no such thing. I don't recommend eating that stuff very often, but around the holidays, because I like to eat this, and we tend to do sandwiches and things like that with leftovers. So we usually get it around this time of year, but I don't recommend keeping this all the time for sure. You're going to need some chicken bone broth. Now, I like this bone broth concentrate, as you know, so you can make your own, but you can use a carton also. You're going to need an onion. You're going to need eggs. You're going to need celery. And then for our seasonings, we're going to season this with parsley, some black pepper, some ground thyme. Now, you can use the regular thyme as well. A lot of times I'll have it out in my garden. I grow a lot of my own herbs, but I really like the ground thyme better for this recipe. Then you're going to need some sage. You're going to need some garlic powder, and you're going to need some salt. So I'm going to measure these out, and I'll show you how to put it together. So what I'm going to do here is start to melt this butter. And I'm going to saute the celery and onions right in here, get them a little soft, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So what I've done, I just have a bread pan here, and I've sprayed it with this avocado oil spray. And this is the one I use. I get this at Aldi. I've also toasted 2 slices of this bread. We're going to crumble that in. And I've diced that onion and diced that celery. So I'm going to take those over and saute those in the butter, get those real happy, and then we'll come back and start putting it together. Well, my butter is getting real happy over here, so what I'm going to do is bring over celery and onions and dump those right in. I really like these little cutting sheets like this. I'll put a link to those down below because it's real handy transporting stuff back and forth without having to bring a whole huge cutting board over. So I'm just going to let those work for a few minutes. Now, this is salted butter. I love using this Kerrygold salted butter, so I don't add any additional salt to this. But you could if you like it a little saltier. We're going to adjust for the seasoning a little bit later. Man, I just love that sound right there. So let these work for a few minutes, and I'll be right back. Now, these onions and that celery is getting real happy in here. So what I'm going to do, take these off the heat. I'm going to move over to where I have crumbled up the bread in a big mixing bowl. I'm going to pour all this together and add the spices in. So what I've done here is crumble the cornbread and the regular bread in here. I'm just going to bring these onions and celery in and dump them right in there. Then I'm going to grab my seasonings and put those in and stir it up. So I dump my onions and celery in. I'm going to go ahead and go in with the spice blend. I just mixed everything together. I'm going to mix this up, and I'll show you what it looks like in just a minute. I just gave that a little taste, and it is tasting pretty good. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit of salt. I think that's the only thing it needs at this point. So I'm just going to add a little salt there. I'm going to beat the eggs, pour those in, kind of mix it up, and see what it tastes like them. And hey, if you don't like raw eggs, one of two things: get a new egg person, or you can just taste it like that and then readjust your seasonings when it comes out of the oven. I'm just going to dump the eggs in, and I'm going to start to stir it up. So let me incorporate these eggs first, and then I'm going to start adding a little bit of that chicken bone broth at a time until we get this saturated, and I'll show you what that looks like. Now I'm starting this half batch with about 3/4 of a cup, maybe a little more, of this bone broth. So I'm just going to pour about 1/4 of it in. That was more like a half. And I'm going to stir it up and see what kind of moisture level we have. You don't want any of the bone broth sitting in there, but you want it to be pretty well absorbed inside this dressing. And this soaked that up pretty good. That's some thirsty dressing. So I'm going to go ahead and pour in about half of what I have left and stir it up. And let's see how it looks after this. All right, so I mixed that in. As you can see, I've kind of put it up on the side so you can see there's no moisture down there. You got a little bit right there. So you want it a little bit more than that, but you don't want any of the liquid sitting in there. So I'm going to add the rest of this, incorporate it in. I think it's going to be perfect. Let me stir this up and we'll see if it's right or if we're going to need more bone broth. So that looks pretty much perfect. I'm going to pull this back up on the side just to make sure. But it's pretty much moistened all the way through. I know a lot of people hate that word moist, but I don't know what else to say. So I'm going to tilt this over. You got just a tiny bit of the bone broth running. So that's perfect. This is what you want. I'm going to put it in this bread pan, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I've got it in my bread pan. I'm just going to kind of flatten that out a little bit. And for this half batch, I'm just going to check it. So I'm going to put that in the 350 oven, and we will check on it in just a few minutes. Oh, and by the way, I tasted for the seasoning on this. Ended up adding a little more salt, a little more sage, and a little more thyme. So I'm going to leave the recipe the way it is in case you don't like those ingredients, but you may want to adjust it yourself. So I'm going to cover this with foil, and because it's a half batch, I'm going to cook it for 20 minutes. Then I'm going to take the foil off and finish it uncovered in the oven. You do the same thing with the full batch, but you're going to cook it for about 30 minutes in the oven and then uncover it for about 15 more. So let me get this in there. I'll show you what it looks like after 20 minutes. So I'm just going to remove the foil now. I'll continue cooking it for another 10 to 15 minutes. So that's what our dressing looks like when it's done. I'm going to go ahead and cut a little slice here. Just get it all around the edges. I'm going to take this piece out, put it right here on the plate. And I just like to finish it with a little bit of this keto gravy. Or a lot of the keto gravy. That's really what I prefer. I hope y'all see how easy that is to do, how delicious it's going to be. Man, I am getting full already, but Christmas is not Christmas to me without some tater salad. So how do you make that keto? I'll show you right now. I've been on a quest to try to figure out how to make my Nana's 100-year-old traditional Southern tater salad recipe, tater salad, while maintaining my keto diet. My search is over, and I'm going to show you how to make it too. My Nana's tater salad is like no other tater salad that you're going to have. It's a Southern style, but she had a particular way of making it. It just brought out all the flavors. But unfortunately, with the potatoes, it doesn't fit into my keto low-carb diet. So a while back, I ran across this guy on YouTube, Chris Cook in Nashville. If you've watched my carnivore mashed potato video, that's who I got that from. And basically, I've taken his way of making potato salad, combine it with my grandmother's, and come up with the most delicious, low-carb, keto-friendly side dish that I've had. It's like a fusion of traditional Southern meets keto, carnivore. I don't even know what to call it, except delicious. Let's get right into this recipe, and I'll show you how to make Nana's keto tater salad. So here's what you're going to need to make the potato part of this potato salad. You're going to need a full carton of egg whites. I get these at Food Lion. That is 32 ounces of egg whites. You can crack the eggs if you want to and separate them, but man, this sure is a whole lot easier just to pour them out of here. You're going to need some cream cheese. You're going to need some Kerrygold butter. You're going to need some fresh mozzarella. Make sure you get the fresh kind because you need the moisture in that to make this come together. You're going to need some salt. You're going to need some plain beef gelatin powder, unflavored. You're also going to need some toasted beef gelatin powder. I've got some Parmigiano Reggiano left over, so that's what I'm going to use. Normally I would use Parmesan. And in the original video, Chris even uses the Parmesan in a can, or as we like to call it, shaky cheese. So you can use that also if that's what you got. I kind of like to use the regular Parmesan and just grate it up. You're going to need some egg white protein powder. And the last thing you'll need is a little bit of heavy whipping cream just to get the consistency right. I've got everything measured out here. Of course, the egg whites, you're going to use the whole carton, so that one's measured. About 3 tablespoons of butter, a couple ounces of the cream cheese, 4 tablespoons of the egg white powder, about 3 ounces of the mozzarella cheese. The salt, I'm just going to throw a pinch in there, so no need to measure that. The teaspoon-ish of Parmesan cheese, and the heavy whipping cream, we're not going to measure because we're just going to add a little bit of that at a time to help this mixture blend up. So let's go over and get started. I've got my butter in the hex-clad pan. I've got this on about a medium heat. I'm just going to start mixing this around, coat the bottom of this pan. This thing does not stick. This is the nicest pan that I've ever had. It doesn't stick at all. I'm just going to get a nice even coat of that butter all over the pan. And make sure you check out Chris's video for some more in-depth instructions, but you can probably follow it pretty easy from this. Now that the butter is melted, I'm going to go ahead and pour in this entire container of egg whites. And I left it out for probably 10 minutes or so, just to let it get almost to room temperature. That's just going to help it cook just a little bit faster at a little bit lower heat. You want to make sure you don't brown these. It's not as important on this recipe as it is the mashed potatoes, because if you're doing mashed potatoes, you definitely don't want them to be brown. This, you're going to have a sauce over the top, so it's not quite as important, but the less brown, the better. Just going to move this around a little bit in the pan, just until it starts cooking. So while the eggs are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and add in everything into the Ninja and put in the cream cheese, and put in the mozzarella. I've got both gelatins together. The non-toasted on top and the toasted on the bottom. Just going to put a little bit of salt in there. Then I'm going to put in the Parmesan cheese. And so then I'll be ready. As soon as the eggs are done, we're going to put the eggs right in on top of that. And then we'll start combining it before we cook it. Now we got some action going on. These egg whites are starting to cook a little bit. You can see a few little pieces swimming around in there in that butter. Yeah, those things are happy right now. I'm going to let it cook a little bit longer, let it tighten up a little more, and then we're going to mix it up. So these are tightening up a good bit now. You can see a lot of cooked egg. I'm just moving it around to keep it from browning anywhere. And as this comes together a little more, I'm going to start breaking it up into little chunks. Let it get nice and dry in the pan. I'll show you what that looks like when it happens. Now the eggs are coming together real nicely. As you can see there's still some liquid in there. We'll cook all that out. I want these to be as dry as they can possibly be before we put them in the blender and blend them up. So while those eggs are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and preheat the oven to 275. It's going to cook low and slow. So what we're going to need to finish Nana's tater salad is some celery. You're going to need some sweet gherkins, no sugar added, of course. This one's sweetened with Splenda. The other gherkins have a ton of sugar in them, and this one has none. So much better choice. This is how we can make this recipe still and keep it keto. You're going to need 2 hard-boiled eggs. You're going to need a batch of my Duke's mayonnaise. We're going to use about a cup of that. You're going to need some yellow mustard. I just get this kind at Walmart. It's one of the few things that companies just can't really mess up and squeeze carbs into. Zero carb, clean ingredients. One day they'll probably end up adding sugar to this, but for now it's still good. You're gonna need some pimentos. Those are sliced. We're gonna dice them. And you're gonna need some fresh cracked pepper. I've almost cooked out all the liquid out of here, so that's looking really good. Another thing you can observe is when they stop smelling like eggs cooking and they smell more like butter, then you know you're almost there. It really doesn't have much of an eggy smell anymore. So now that these are good and dry, I'm just gonna put them right in the blender on top of everything else that we put in there already. And I'm gonna take them over to the Ninja and I'm gonna blend this up. And we're going to make the potatoes for Nana's tater salad. We've got a full blender here. I'm going to put the lid on it. I lost this little plastic thing somewhere along the way, so I usually just get a paper towel, put over the top of it. I'm going to blend this on low, and I'll show you what it looks like. This is the best blender. I love this thing. I'm going to turn the power on. I'm going to put it on the dough setting, which is like the low. It's just going to start working this and incorporating all this together. It's going to get to a mashed potato consistency. Then we're going to take it out and I'm going to fold in the egg white powder. So I'll let this go for a few minutes and I'll be right back once this is fully incorporated. What I'm going to do is add just a little bit of this heavy cream just to help things out a little. Maybe a tablespoon. If you heard how the motor changed there, that's just going to help work all this together. In a second, I may need to take the top off and push that down in there, but this Ninja does a really good job of kind of pulling everything in. You can see it working right there. So it may end up grabbing this and bringing it down in. We'll see. This is all moving and shaking in there, so I'm going to go up one more level. See how that's working in there? It's like a tornado in there. Pulls everything to the middle. Brings it down through there. It's going to come out perfect. I only added a tablespoon of heavy cream in there. If you can see this texture, it's kind of like a paste, but it's super smooth. And that's exactly what you want. So I'm going to transfer all this to a mixing bowl and show you the next step. Hey, if you like videos like this and you're not subscribed, subscribe down here and ring that bell. If you do a low carb or keto diet, I think there's some things on my channel that you're going to love. I transferred this to a bowl. So what I'm going to do now is just fold in this egg white powder a little bit at a time. So I'm going to do about a quarter of it, maybe about a tablespoon. So I'm just going to kind of fold it in like that a little bit at a time. Press it down to make sure that powder gets in there really well. Then I'll add in a little more. And do the same thing. Just make sure that's really well incorporated. So fold it over, press it down. We don't want any air bubbles. And we want to make sure that egg white powder is consistently through this mix. Now all that egg white powder is incorporated into here and we're ready to put it on a baking sheet. As you can see, I've got my favorite mixing bowl here. If you watched any of my other videos, you may remember the story about this mixing bowl. So I hope at least one person was paying attention. So if you were, and you know the story of this bowl, leave me a comment down there. We're going to take this over. I've got a parchment paper lined baking sheet. We're going to put it on there and spread it out. I'll just give it one final stir just to make sure that egg white powder is incorporated in there. Now I'm going to pour it all on the middle with this parchment paper. And if you saw my other video, you'll know my parchment paper trick of how to get it to stay flat, not roll up on you. Try to keep it all together in the middle. So what you're trying to do here is spread it out to about a ½ inch thick, because we're going to bake this. It's going to become our potatoes for Nana's tater salad. It's going to bake kind of like in a big block like this. We're going to cut it into little squares. And then the other thing you want to do here is just get your edges right. You don't want it being thin on the edge where it might burn. So just try to tighten it up like that. I'm going to throw this in a 275-degree oven, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. We're going to go 30 minutes on this. And we'll take it out after 30 minutes, let it cool, and we're going to cut it into taters. So I've got all my ingredients chopped for Nana's tater salad dressing. So I've got ½ a cup of celery. I've got a cup of the sweet gherkins, 2 hard-boiled eggs chopped, and 2 tablespoons of pimentos. I'm going to put those in the mixing bowl and then add in my other ingredient. Nana used to can her own pickles. My papa would grow the cucumbers and then she would can every fall. She had the best pickles. I feel fortunate that I have found these to at least get close. So I've given that a good mix. Now I'm going to add in a cup of my Duke's mayonnaise, a creamy that is. I'm going to add in a teaspoon of mustard. And she said a dash of Thousand Island dressing. I'm using this G. Hughes sugar-free Thousand Island dressing. A lot of times I'll make it myself, but I also keep this just to make it easy. So a dash, how much is a dash? I'm going to say about that much. And then the last thing I'm going to do is just some fresh black pepper. So that's it. I'm just going to mix this together, and we're going to wait for the taters to be ready. So when this comes out of the oven, this is what it looks like. It should have a nice golden brown color. And when you touch it, it should feel like a nice fork tender potato. So we're just going to slice it all the way down the length through the entire sheet. We're going to get some uniform pieces going on there. Basically, whatever size you like your potatoes and potato salad to be, that's the same thing you want to do with this. So just slice it all the way down, just like that, nice and slow, and cut it into bite-sized pieces. When you're all done, this is what it should look like. And now it's time to combine the taters with the tater salad dressing. So I just try to take the sheet like this and dump it into the bowl. And, well, I guess it was kind of a fail, but guess what? If you spill some, pick it up, throw it right in there, you're good to go. This is how Nana's tater salad looks like when it's done. It is the most delicious tater salad you're going to have, and I hope you enjoy it. And the way she always liked to finish this to make a nice presentation at the table was just sprinkle the whole top with some sweet paprika. We didn't have smoked paprika back then, so this is what she did. And it gave it a nice flavor. But more importantly, it made it look absolutely fantastic. So it's like a traditional Southern meets New Age keto carnivore wizardry. I really don't know what to call it except delicious. One of my favorite sides to have at Christmas is a green bean casserole. And I think the one that I make is even more delicious than the original. See what you think right now. One of my favorite side dishes is green bean casserole. Man, what a treat. And I figured out a way that if you're keto or low carb, you can have your casserole and eat it too. Stick around. So a traditional green bean casserole has all kind of ingredients. One being the crispy onions on top, the Campbell's condensed cream of mushroom soup. I'm going to show you how to make all those. And we'll make it real simple and easy so that you can make a green bean casserole and enjoy one of the best side dishes out there. The green bean casserole is creamy, cheesy, and absolutely delicious. You're going to want to make this again and again, and you can without any guilt because it's low carb and keto friendly. And you're going to want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Here are the ingredients you're going to need to put together this keto green bean casserole. You're going to need some green beans. This is a 12-ounce package. You're going to need some sharp cheddar cheese. I love this extra sharp cheddar for this recipe, but at least a sharp. You're going to need some of my keto condensed cream of mushroom soup, and I'll put a card up in the right corner, and I'll leave a link for the video in the description so you know how to make it. You're going to need some heavy cream, some liquid aminos, and I don't do soy as a general rule, but for this, we're only putting a teaspoon in. If you don't like to use soy at all, use some coconut aminos. You're going to need some seasoning salt, and you're going to need some pepper. And you're going to need some of these keto Funyuns. And I'll put a card up in the corner that you can click on, or I'll put a link down in the description so you find out how to make these. I'm going to go ahead and put everything together, measure out all the ingredients, and I'll be right back and show you how to put this together. Into my favorite mixing bowl, I've added the condensed cream of mushroom soup I added in the liquid aminos and I added in the heavy cream. I'm gonna go ahead and add in the green beans. Now the way I cook these, it's in the microwave bag, so I cook it to about 3/4 of the amount of time that it says to cook it on the bag, because you don't want them mushy. You want them still a little bit crispy because they're gonna bake in the oven. Now I'm gonna go ahead and dump in my seasonings. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot of seasonings, but remember there's a ton of flavor in that condensed cream of mushroom soup. So I'm just gonna give this a stir, combine it well. I'm gonna put it in either 2 of these 8x8 cake pans or a 9x13 casserole dish, and then we're gonna put it in the oven. Before I put this second bag of green beans in, I just wanna point out that you wanna make sure they're drained really well. You don't want a whole lot of excess liquid in there. Go ahead and put those in and give it a good stir. Hey, if you're liking this video and you wanna see more like it, look right down here, click this subscribe button and hit the bell icon, and it'll let you know as soon as I put out another video. I've evenly divided these between these 2 8x8 cake pans. You can use a 9x13 casserole dish also, but I'm gonna freeze one. But all I'm gonna do now is top this with cheese, and it's ready to go in the oven. I'll show you what they look like when they're done. So this is ready to go in the oven. Because it's in a smaller pan, I'm gonna put it in there for about 25 minutes. Just until that cheese gets nice and bubbly and brown. I'll probably add a little more cheese, and if you want to add more cheese than this, you can too. So when there's 5 minutes left to cook, I'm going to take these crispy Funyun breadcrumbs, crumble them up right on top. I'm going to cover this whole thing and give it a nice crispy topping. We'll put it back in for 5 more minutes. I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. So this is what it looks like when it's finished. So I'm gonna put this on the plate, put some sides with it. We're gonna have a good meal with this. And Christmas just would not be Christmas to me at all without my Nana's traditional Southern macaroni and cheese. Let's make that one right now. Are you looking to make a low-carb mac and cheese that doesn't contain cauliflower or some other weird ingredients? If you want the real deal, you've come to the right place. Stick around. There's plenty of recipes out there that are substitutes for mac and cheese. One of the most popular ones is the cauliflower mac and cheese, but it's not cauliflower mac and cheese. It's cauliflower and cheese, and I've got a great recipe for that too, but this ain't it. I've taken my Nana's 100-year-old mac and cheese recipe and modified it to make it keto. Now this mac and cheese recipe is not dripping and oozing with cheese. This is a traditional Southern mac and cheese. But stick around to the end of this video, and if you're wanting one that is oozing and dripping with cheese, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is and when you can look for it. So let me get the ingredients together and let's get cooking. This is what we're going to need to make this keto mac and cheese. You're going to need some butter. And the ingredients on this recipe are very important. Get the best that you can because there's very few ingredients. So all the flavors are really going to come out. The better the ingredients, the better the flavors. You're going to need a couple eggs, and these are local pasture-raised eggs. They're going to have a bright orange yolk, a ton of nutrition, and a ton of flavor. You're going to need extra sharp cheddar cheese. This is very important that you get this extra sharp kind because of the flavor you're going to need to bring out of this. Now, my Nana did not put salt or pepper when she wrote down this recipe because they always do it to taste. So I tried to put the amounts that I think you're going to need, but make sure you taste it and see what you think. You're going to need some pepper and then paprika. She always sprinkled the top with this paprika, so it made it look really nice. Also gave it a little bit of flavor. And of course, you're going to need some heavy cream. Oh, and I almost forgot the star of the show. Let's go over and grab this box. And let me show you my secret ingredient that helps make this low carb without having to eat cauliflower and pretend that it's macaroni. Let's do some real macaroni, y'all. This is the box that contains the secret to my low carb keto mac and cheese. We should see what's in it. Let me show you these noodles. They're from the Great Low Carb Bread Company. They have a ton of different products, from their pastas to pizza crust, cookies, muffins. They have a lot. This one has 7 grams of net carbs per serving, which is a quarter of this macaroni and cheese. So these are delicious. I will put a link down below so you can order these. You'll be able to get them before Thanksgiving. They've told me that their lead time is really good. They know this time of year people are going to be wanting to make macaroni and cheese. Order some of these and try it out for yourself. I've tried a lot of these, and this is definitely my favorite. It's a real legit macaroni noodle. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you want me to help you make all your favorite standard American foods keto, low carb, and delicious. So let me go ahead and prep all these ingredients, and I'm going to show you how to put this awesome 100-year-old mac and cheese recipe turned keto together. I'm going to post a picture of her original recipe somewhere in this video so you can see the recipe in her writing. Anytime I saw something with that handwriting on it, I knew it was going to be good, whether it was a recipe or if she sent me a card. I really missed her a lot, but hopefully she's looking down and it'll make her proud that I'm sharing her recipe with so many people. The modifications I had to make was her original recipe called for margarine, and of course I'm using butter. And instead of the evaporated milk, which has got a lot of carbs, I'm using heavy cream. Now what I'm going to use to put this in today is about a 9.5 inch pie plate. Ideally you want to use a 9x9 square for this one. And I'm going to put in the description a recipe to double it, or you would use a 9x13 casserole dish. Nana used to call this macaroni pie. Today it's actually going to look like a pie. Y'all leave me a comment if you've ever heard anybody call it macaroni pie before. But I'm just going to spray it down with some avocado oil. And I'm going to go over to the stove and start cooking my pasta to the package directions. Once your water comes to a rapid boil like this, we're going to pour in this macaroni. And you're going to want to stir this up a few times during this process. It's going to take about 11 minutes. It cooks a little bit longer than normal pasta because of the amount of protein in it. So just check it after about 10, see how it's doing, but I think 11 is a perfect time to boil this. And just give it a little stir every once in a while. You don't want this to stick together. And what you're looking for is you want it to be al dente. So when you take one out to try it, you want it to have a little bit of bite to it. You don't want it to be mushy and falling apart. So we'll check back after a few minutes and see how it's looking. Okay, so 11 minutes was perfect. I'm going to take this over to the sink and drain it. We'll let it sit there and drain just for a minute. Look at that. That's not cauliflower. That's the real deal noodles right there. Check that out. We'll come back and put it together. What we're going to do first is add in about half of this pasta into our pie pan, because we're making macaroni pie. Just going to kind of get that out like that. And I'm going to mix together the eggs, the milk, and the water. Go ahead and stir that up a little bit. And what I'm going to do, I melted this butter. It's a little hot. So I'm going to pour a little bit at a time in here just to cool it off a little bit. And then we'll put that to the side. We'll go ahead and dump in the spices into here as well. And all that is salt and pepper. The flavors of the ingredients really need to shine through. That's why I like this pasta so much. So we're going to take half of this cheese and sprinkle it all over here. And get that nice and even. And then we're going to take the other half and pour on just like that. Now I've preheated my oven to 400 degrees. That's what it's going to cook at. I'm going to put the rest of this cheese on there. And yeah, make sure you use a fresh block of cheese and grate it like this. That way you don't have those anti-caking agents in there. So what I'm going to do now is just combine all this together. We're just going to take this mixture and pour it all the way in like that. So I've got everything in there. I'm just going to sprinkle the top with paprika. We're going to put it in a 400 degree oven for 30 minutes. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's done.
We'll be right back.
Hey, so lean in real close for this one. Next week, I'm doing some Cracker Barrel ooey gooey mac and cheese. So if you like a ton of cheese on it, that's your jam.
All right, so this is done. I'm gonna pull this out. Wow, look at that. So let's try it out. So let me go right in here and get this little bit. That looks delicious. You see that crust right there? That's what you want on this traditional Southern mac and cheese. So let's try Nana's mac and cheese. Oh man. That's some traditional Southern mac and cheese. It is so good.
Another great side to have, broccoli casserole. Goes great with everything else. A perfect holiday dish. It's going to complement all of the other foods that we're doing. So let's bake that up. This broccoli and cheese casserole has gone keto. It's creamy, it's cheesy, it's delicious, and you're going to find out how to make it right after this. Broccoli and cheese casserole is a fantastic side dish that goes with so many different recipes. And you know I love to take a good recipe like that and make it keto because I don't like to deprive myself. All the dishes that I've always enjoyed, I still enjoy. They're just modified to be a little different, low carb. And I can eat things like this and not have to go lay on the couch for 5 hours to recover. So I'm going to show you how to make this broccoli and cheese casserole that is creamy, cheesy, one of the ultimate side dishes that you can make. So let me show you what you need to put this together so that you can have your casserole and eat it too.
Here are the ingredients you're going to need to put together this broccoli and cheese casserole. You're going to need some riced cauliflower, a 12-ounce bag of broccoli florets, and you can use a bigger bag if you like a little more broccoli. You're going to need my keto condensed cream of mushroom soup, and I'll put a card up in the right corner, and I'll put a link to this down in the description so you know how to make it. You're going to need an onion, some garlic powder, some black pepper. You're going to need some heavy cream, some salt, and some smoked paprika. Now this cauliflower rice and broccoli is thawed, so I'm going to heat it up just a little bit in the microwave, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, just to get it warm before we put this together. Make sure your broccoli is drained very well, and then we're going to take these big florets and just cut them into little bite-sized pieces, and we'll put it together. And you're going to want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you're not subscribed yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button right down there and hit the bell, and you'll know whenever I upload a new video.
So I'm going to start out with my cauliflower rice in my favorite mixing bowl. To that, I'm going to add in my warmed broccoli. I'll go ahead and mix in my condensed keto cream of mushroom soup, and I will put a card up there to the right so you know how to make that, and I'll put a link in the description. I'm going to go ahead and add in my onion. Now if you want, you can go ahead and cook the onion first if you like it a little bit softer. I find that it comes out really good just baking it right in, so I don't pre-cook the onion. A lot of people do. Then I'm going to go in with my spice mix. I'm going to put the cheese in, and I'll stir it up really, really well. Now I've mixed this up, I'm going to put in the heavy cream, give it another stir, and then we will get it ready to bake. So you're either going to take a 9x13 casserole dish or 2 of these 8x8 pie pans. And the reason I'm doing those is because I'm going to freeze one, and we're going to have one now. So I'm going to take this, evenly divide it in these 2, or you just dump it in your casserole dish, and I'll be right back. These are evenly divided, so I'm going to take my cheese and just sprinkle it all over the top like this. Now I like to finish this by sprinkling a little bit more smoked paprika on the top. And we're going to go in that 350 degree oven for 25 to 30 minutes. If you're making it in the casserole dish, then you're going to need probably 35 to 40 minutes. So when there's 5 minutes left, I'm going to take some of these pork rinds, crumble them right on the top. I'm going to put this back in uncovered for the last 5 minutes to give it a little crispy topping. So this is what the broccoli casserole is going to look like when it's finished. Oh man, this is going to be good. Wow, so I need to go and eat this. I'm surprised I was actually able to show you what it looked like at the end because I wanted to eat the whole thing while I was making it. Seems like we need a little something sweet to go with all this, huh? But we don't want the sugar. What can we do? How about this sugar-free cranberry sauce for starters? And then we'll move on to a dessert after that. Cranberry sauce is one of those dishes, whether it's Thanksgiving or Christmas or just another family get-together, it just seems to always show up. Nobody exactly knows who brings it, and nobody admits to it, but it's always there. And most people either love it or hate it. Myself, I love it. And chances are good that if you're watching this video, you love it too. Chances are also good that if you're watching this video, you want to learn how to make it without all the sugar. So I'm going to show you that right after this. Now the cranberry sauce that I'm talking about is not the one where you take the can, you open it up, you get something that looks like this, and then you set that on a plate and let people cut it. I'm talking about a real good cranberry sauce with fresh cranberries. We're going to have a little bit of orange flavor in there, and it's going to be just as sweet and delicious as any cranberry sauce you've ever had, but without the sugar. This is a super easy recipe. There's only 5 ingredients, and let me show you what those are, and we'll get started making this cranberry sauce. Here are the ingredients you're going to need to make this delicious low-carb cranberry sauce. You're going to need a package of cranberries. This is a 12-ounce package, but I'll put everything down below in the recipe. You're going to need some Splenda Magic Baker or your favorite sugar-free sweetener. You're going to need some vanilla extract, some orange extract, some freshly squeezed lemon juice, and some water. I'll get all this measured out and show you how to put it together. To this medium saucepan, I'm going to add in all the cranberries. I'm going to add in the water. I'm going to add in all the sweetener. The reason I like this sweetener so much is this is a combination of allulose, stevia, and erythritol. To me, erythritol has a cooling effect when it's used by itself, and we definitely don't want this. We want this to be nice and warming. So I don't like that cooling effect, but all these together are great. And then I'm going to add in the lemon juice. Now what I'm not going to add in are the extracts. I'm going to stir those in at the end. So that's what it looks like there. And I got this new Cooktron induction burner. I had a little accident with my other one, and if you've watched any of my previous videos, you probably know what happened. And New Wave was the brand I was using. They just came out with a double induction burner, but I had to have one, so I went ahead and got this one, and it's really nice. What I'm going to do is bring this up to a boil. Then I'm going to turn it down to a simmer. So this has a few different power settings. It has an 800 watt, it has 1000 watt, 1200, 14, 16, and 18. So since I'm only using one burner, I'm just going to turn it on 1400, and I'm going to put it up at the max of 464 degrees until this comes to a boil. If you're liking this video and you're not subscribed, click right down there, hit the bell, and you'll know when I put out a new video. Now this has been just a couple of minutes, but you can already see this starting to pop and boil a little like that. So I'm just going to let that continue to cook down for a little bit longer. Then I'm going to lower the heat down to about 350. This is what you want right here, and you can see it popping, and we want those cranberries to burst. So I'm just going to turn it down to a simmer now. 176 degrees on this particular cooktop. On your stove, you just turn it down, to a medium low. We're just going to kind of work this around for a little bit, cook it down, and I'll show you what it looks like. Now once it's to this point where it's just gently simmering like that, we're going to let it sit here and cook
for 10 or 15 more minutes. So this has been simmering like this for about 10 minutes, maybe 12. You see how those cranberries are whole like that? What we're going to do is just start breaking them up a little bit, because we want them to burst, and this is going to turn into a sauce. So we'll just help them along a little bit. How about that? Turn the heat up a little bit. If there's some of them that are not bursting, we'll just give them a little help. I've been really happy with this double cooktop from Cooktron. I'll put a link to this down below. It comes in really handy, especially around the holidays. If you have people bringing over dishes and you need your oven to heat them up, and they've got stuff on the stove. If people bring dishes over and you've got those on the stove trying to keep them warm and you're out of burners, it's nice to have a couple extra burners over on the side. And there's nothing wrong with helping this along a little bit by mashing these up, but you do want to make sure it cooks for 10 to 15 minutes just so you start getting this sauce like that. This is the consistency you're looking for right there. And I like to leave just a few whole in there. If you really love cranberry sauce, you're going to like that. What I'm going to do is then turn the power off on here, or turn off your heat, whichever. And I'm going to pour in my extracts. Now, this has alcohol in it, so it's going to bubble up. I like to add this at the end. It's hot enough, it's going to cook that alcohol off, so you don't have to worry about that. But I just like to keep the flavors in there. And you're just going to stir that all the way through it. And mash some more of these if you want to. And man, this makes the house smell so good. And I cannot wait to eat this. I know you're going to love that cranberry sauce. It's delicious. It goes so well with all the holiday meals. So the perfect Christmas dessert, in my opinion, is a pecan pie. It's delicious. Let's make a pecan pie. There's nothing quite like an ooey, gooey pecan pie. Or is it pecan? Or is it pecan? Let me know in the comments what you say. I think mine's kind of a combination of all three. Either way, it's a delicious pie, but normally loaded with a ton of sugar that you just don't want to put in your body. I've got a solution for it. I think I've made the ultimate keto, low-carb pecan pie. I'm going to show you how to make it right after this. I say pecan, you say pecan, they say pecan. Doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong. The point is, it's delicious in a pie. Especially around the holidays when the pecans come in. And if you have a tree outside like I do that you can get some off of, even better. But if not, you can find them at just about any store now. It's a lot easier to make than you think. And I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can so that you can try this and make it really fast too. Let me show you the ingredients we need to put this pie together. So here's what you're going to need for the pecan pie. You're going to need some good butter. You're going to need some of this Magic Baker's Blend, the brown version. You're going to need some of the regular Magic Baker Blend. You're going to need some vanilla. You're going to need some salt. You're going to need some eggs. And although you never want to put all your eggs in one basket, putting them all in one bowl is totally acceptable. You're going to need some pecan halves. And you're going to need one of my pie crusts, or you can use your own favorite keto pie crust. But mine's simple, delicious. It'll make your pecan pie come out perfect. I'll put a link to that video up top and in the description also. Now, these are some pretty simple ingredients, but when you have really good ingredients, you don't have to make the stuff complicated. So I'm going to measure all this out, and I'll show you how to put it together. Now, if you like pies and keto desserts, and you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button right down there. Hit the little bell beside it. Anytime I do a new keto dessert recipe, you'll know about it. I'm just going to turn on this pan to a medium heat. I'm going to go ahead and start melting this butter. I'm going to add in the brown sweetener. and the regular sweetener. We're just going to stir this up for 2 or 3 minutes until this sweetener is melted. And it's going to thicken up just a little bit. We're making like a basic caramel here. So now that all the sweetener is melted, I'm just gonna let this cook for about 2 or 3 minutes. So I'm bringing it up to a simmer like this. And we're just gonna let it cook right there for 3 minutes. It's gonna get a little more brown and it's gonna thicken up a little bit. So you can see how it's started to thicken up a little bit on the sides when you push it down in there. And that's when you're done. So we're just going to take it off the heat and it's going to cool to room temperature. Now that this mixture has cooled down, we'll go ahead and add in the salt. Give that a little whisk to get it throughout. Then I'm going to add in my eggs. I'm going to beat these, but before I do, I want you to see this. Can you tell me which ones are local, pasture raised, and which ones I had to buy in the store because my egg lady was out of town? So now I'm going to pour the eggs in. Make sure this is cool when you do that because you don't want scrambled eggs. So just going to whisk this all together, and I'll show you how to put this pie together. So we're just going to take our pie crust. I'm going to dump in all the pecans. Just kind of flatten them out like that. Now, if you want to make it pretty, you can leave some of those halves to put on top, but I like to just put it all in there. And I'm just going to take this caramel sauce and just dump it all on there like that. And my whisk just came apart. Did you see that? I get a new whisk. Anyway, I'm going to put this in that 325-degree oven. It's going to bake in there for about 45 minutes. Oh, I almost forgot to show you my trick. So before you put it in the oven, to keep this crust from burning like that, this is something I got from my grandmother, and I'll link the video up here on the easiest way that I found to make this. But I'm just going to put this ring right on top here, and that's going to keep that crust from burning. So I'm going to put this in the oven, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. And I forgot to add in my vanilla extract and maple extract. So I'm going to try this. Don't do like me, put this on ahead of time when you're mixing all the other stuff together, but I was just a little excited and I forgot. What I've done is a teaspoon of vanilla extract and a half teaspoon of maple extract. Some people don't like maple, so you can use all vanilla. You could use all maple if you wanted to. I'm just going to try my best to pour this on top and figure out how it's going to come out. Just try to evenly distribute it. But yeah, make sure you don't do like me. Put it in the beginning. We'll put it in the oven and see what happens. So after 45 minutes, this is what it looks like. Let's take this ring off first and see if it did its job. And it did. The crust is nice and brown, but it is not burned. And what you're looking for here is when you shake this, it should be just a little bit jiggly, but not much. So we're just gonna let this cool. And then as soon as it's cool, we can go ahead and enjoy this delicious pecan pie. Now, does that look delicious or what? I hope you make this and you'll find it just as delicious as I do. Man, I am stuffed, but I'm still 75 pounds lighter than I was before. So I'm real happy. I hope y'all have enjoyed this. I really enjoyed making it for you. And if anybody makes all these together, please let me know. If you got a bunch of people coming over for Christmas, you can put this together and I guarantee you, they'll be real happy. If you want some more ideas of things to make after Christmas, I'll put a playlist right over there so that you can get some more great ideas and watch some more good recipe videos. I hope each and every one of you guys has a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, I really do appreciate all the support that you give me, sharing all the videos, all the likes and comments. I always enjoy reading those. So happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas. Take care of yourselves, and I'm looking forward to a great new year. Hope you are too. Thank y'all so much for watching. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.